when we saw that, I cannot explain. It was one of the greatest moments of my life. Only the birth of my children has been more important than that.
For 2,000 years, history's most captivating queen has slept in absolute secrecy, leaving modern archaeologists chasing ghosts. Most experts declared her final resting place forever lost to time and the depths of the Mediterranean Sea. But they were looking in the wrong place. Deep beneath a crumbling desert temple, a radical breakthrough has just shattered a millennia-old cold case. We are no longer just searching for Cleopatra's lost tomb. We are standing on its doorstep. The blockbuster breakthroughs, the submerged port, and the miracle tunnel. For centuries, the search for Egypt's iconic queen was dead in the water. Quite literally, mainstream academia insisted that Cleopatra's final resting place rested within the royal quarters of Alexandria, a glittering palace complex that plunged into the Mediterranean Sea during a series of cataclysmic earthquakes over 1,000 years ago. The conventional wisdom was bleak. If you wanted to find the queen, you needed scuba gear, an immense budget, and a miracle to sift through centuries of marine silt. The case was effectively closed, treated as an underwater cemetery of scattered stone columns and broken pottery. But history has a way of hiding in plain sight. In the sun-scorched desert, roughly 30 miles west of Alexandria, a stunning sequence of discoveries has violently upended the status quo, transforming a neglected archaeological site into the epicenter of a global treasure hunt. The first massive shockwave to hit the archaeological community came with the sudden unveiling of a staggering underground structure. Carved directly through the unforgiving, solid sandstone bedrock deep beneath the ruins of Taposiris Magna, excavators stumbled upon what the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities officially hailed as a geometric miracle. It is an engineering marvel of the ancient world. This spectacular subterranean passage stretches for an astonishing 4,300 feet, more than 13 football fields in length, and stands over 6 feet high. Buried 43 feet beneath the desert floor, the precision-cut tunnel bears a striking, uncanny resemblance to Greece's legendary Tunnel of Eupalinos on the island of Samos, widely revered as one of the greatest engineering feats of classical antiquity. For an ancient civilization to hack this massive corridor out of bedrock without modern machinery required a monumental expenditure of labor, wealth, and absolute secrecy. But what was its purpose? The answer lay at the end of the tunnel, where the plot takes an incredible maritime turn. As the excavation team followed the subterranean passage, it plunged directly out of the desert and straight toward the coastline, where the bedrock gave way to water. To unlock the next piece of the puzzle, investigators joined forces with Dr. Robert Ballard, the legendary oceanographer famous for discovering the wreck of the Titanic. Utilizing cutting-edge marine mapping technology, the team peered beneath the waves just off the coast of Taposiris Magna. What they found shattered all previous assumptions about the site. Submerged beneath 40 feet of murky Mediterranean water lay a massive, previously unmapped ancient port. The seabed was not just a barren wasteland of sand, it was a ghost city. The team mapped monumental stone columns towering 20 feet high, highly polished stone floors, intricately cemented blocks, and a vast debris field of Ptolemaic-era anchors and amphorae. This was a bustling, high-capacity royal harbor, completely lost to time. Most crucially, this flooded ancient port aligns directly with the geometric miracle tunnel cutting under the temple. This creates a direct, hyper-secret conduit connecting the sacred sanctuary directly to the open sea. But who would build a massive, top-secret maritime escape route right beneath a sacred sanctuary? The crime scene mindset, Dr. Kathleen Martinez's radical theory. Now, why was this hidden world uncovered? We need to meet the woman who defied the entire archaeological establishment. For decades, the search for Cleopatra was dominated by a rigid, traditional consensus. The leading gatekeepers of Egyptology confidently asserted that the queen and her Roman lover, Mark Antony, were buried in a hasty, long-collapsed tomb within the royal district of Alexandria. Because that district now sits under 15 feet of polluted harbor water, the search was deemed practically impossible. Enter Dr. Kathleen Martinez, a criminal lawyer turned archaeologist from the Dominican Republic who arrived in Egypt with no institutional backing but possessed a fiercely independent perspective. Martinez didn't look at the problem through the lens of dusty textbooks. Instead, she treated the 2,000-year-old mystery exactly like a high-stakes cold case. She began by cross-referencing ancient texts with a deep psychological profile of the queen herself. Martinez recognized that Cleopatra was not just a tragic romantic figure. She was a brilliant, highly educated political strategist who spoke 9 languages and was an expert in religious law. If Cleopatra knew her empire was collapsing, she would never leave her mortal remains or her eternal soul at the mercy of her bitterest Roman enemies. She needed a plan that outsmarted her conquerors, and that plan required a specific religious stage. That stage was Taposiris Magna, the great tomb of Osiris. Mainstream experts laughed at Martinez's hypothesis, pointing out that the site was an unfinished peripheral temple mostly used as a military outpost. But Martinez saw what they missed. Cleopatra had spent her entire reign carefully branding herself as the living reincarnation of Isis, the supreme goddess of magic and motherhood. Mark Antony was publicly worshipped as Osiris, the lord of the underworld. According to the foundational myth of Egyptian religion, when Osiris was killed and dismembered by his evil brother, Isis lovingly gathered his pieces and resurrected him. Martinez theorized that Cleopatra would have viewed her impending death not as an end, but as a divine ritual. To achieve eternal life and godhood with Antony, they had to be buried within a sanctuary explicitly dedicated to this myth, far away from Roman jurisdiction. Armed with nothing but raw determination, Martinez managed to secure a highly restrictive 2-month excavation permit from the Egyptian government. Senior officials fully expected her to pack up and leave empty-handed, but treating the temple like a crime scene meant looking where no one else thought to look. While previous expeditions focused solely on the center of the temple courtyard, Martinez began scanning the outer perimeters, looking for anomalies in the bedrock, hidden shafts, and structural inconsistencies. Her legal training had taught her that perpetrators always leave a trail, no matter how carefully they try to erase it. Within weeks of breaking ground, her unconventional approach paid off, exposing a complex network of deep shafts, hidden burial chambers, and long-forgotten tunnels that had eluded treasure hunters for millennia. To prove her wild theory to a room full of skeptical scientists, Martinez needed cold, hard evidence, and the desert was about to deliver. The treasures of Taposiris Magna, golden tongues, and royal coins. The skepticism of the archaeological elite evaporated the moment the sands of Taposiris Magna began yielding physical proof. Dr. Martinez's team didn't just find empty corridors. They uncovered a literal treasure trove of artifacts that linked the temple directly to the highest echelons of the Ptolemaic court. The first major breakthrough came with the discovery of the temple's foundation plates. These small, phone-sized tablets made of gold, silver, and glass were deposited during construction to certify the exact dedication of the building. Written in both Greek and Egyptian hieroglyphics, they explicitly stated that the temple was built by King Ptolemy IV and dedicated entirely to the goddess Isis. The religious foundation of Martinez's theory was now an indisputable fact. But the most haunting and telling discoveries were waiting in the newly excavated tombs surrounding the temple perimeter. Archaeologists unearthed a series of high-status mummies, buried with a level of luxury reserved only for the elite. Among them were mummies bearing a stunning and rare funerary feature, amulets made of pure gold leaf, meticulously shaped into the form of human tongues, placed directly inside their jaws. This was not a random act of opulence. According to ancient Egyptian ritual, a golden tongue allowed the deceased to speak eloquently to Osiris, the judge of the dead, in the afterlife. It proved that the people buried here were part of a highly secretive, deeply devout religious cult, preparing for a divine court appearance alongside their rulers. Then came the physical evidence of the queen herself. While searching the temple debris, the team unearthed a cache of over 300 bronze and bronze alloy coins. When cleaned, the oxidized crust fell away to reveal the striking profile, sharp nose, and royal diadem of Cleopatra VII, stamped with her official Greek title. These weren't coins lost by passing traders. This was state-issued currency meant to cement her divine authority over the priesthood at Taposiris Magna. Soon after, the earth yielded an even greater prize, a beautifully carved, realistic marble bust. Expert analysis concluded that this artifact is likely the 8th known surviving statue head of Cleopatra in existence, capturing her exact likeness as stylized by her royal artisans. Every artifact pulled from the dirt whispered the same name, proving that Cleopatra had personally poured immense resources into this specific temple. With the queen's presence undeniable, one massive question remained. Why go to such extreme lengths to hide a royal burial? The Roman deception. Why the tomb was hidden outside Alexandria. For us to fully comprehend why Cleopatra's final resting place would be deliberately tucked away at Taposiris Magna, one must step directly into the high-stakes political chess match of 30 BCE. The world of the Ptolemaic dynasty was collapsing. Julius Caesar had been assassinated years prior, and Cleopatra's subsequent lover and co-ruler, the Roman general Mark Antony, had just suffered a catastrophic military defeat at the Battle of Actium. The victorious Roman commander, Octavian, the cold, calculating grandnephew of Caesar, who would soon become Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, was marching directly upon Alexandria. Octavian's intentions were as brutal as they were public. He did not just want to conquer Egypt, he wanted to mentally and physically dismantle its leadership. His ultimate grand prize was Cleopatra herself. The Roman plan was to capture the queen alive, drag her across the Mediterranean in heavy iron chains, and parade her through the crowded streets of Rome as a humiliated war trophy during his grand, triumphal procession. But Cleopatra was a sovereign pharaoh, the last of a 3,000-year line of divine rulers, and she utterly refused to play the victim in Rome's political theater. By choosing a tactical, ritualistic, self-inflicted death, Cleopatra completely outsmarted the future emperor. However, her plan had to extend far beyond her final breath. She knew that if she were buried within the traditional royal quarters of Alexandria, her body would be entirely under Roman military occupation. Octavian would have absolute control over her physical remains. He could have desecrated her tomb, used her corpse as a political prop, or systematically erased her memory from history to ensure her children could never claim her throne. To prevent this, a massive, highly coordinated deception had to be executed right under the noses of the occupying Roman legions. This is where the sanctuary of Taposiris Magna, located comfortably outside the immediate borders of the capital city, becomes the ultimate geographic decoy. By utilizing a highly devout, fiercely loyal network of temple high priests, Cleopatra could ensure her survival in the afterlife. While historical records indicate she successfully negotiated with Octavian to be buried alongside Mark Antony, the actual execution of that burial was likely a massive cover-up. While the Romans monitored an empty or substitute royal monument in Alexandria, the true mummified bodies of the queen and her Roman general were likely smuggled out of the capital. They were transported down the coast and brought to Taposiris Magna, where a heavily fortified, deeply buried sanctuary had already been prepared to shield them from Roman eyes for eternity. History tells us she lost the war, but could these hidden chambers prove she won the final battle for her legacy? The tech warfare, sonar, GPR, and Titanic-level oceanography, sifting through the layers of history at Taposiris Magna, is not a gentle exercise in brushing away loose sand. It is a full-scale, tech-driven war against time, geology, and the brutal physics of nature. The terrain itself acts as a hostile guardian of Cleopatra's secrets. Over the past 2 millennia, the northern coast of Egypt has been violently reshaped by the Earth's tectonic volatility. The region has been battered by at least 23 cataclysmic historic earthquakes between 320 CE and 1303 CE, including a notorious 4th century tsunami that permanently dragged vast swathes of the ancient coastline into the dark depths of the sea. As a result, the subterranean network is a chaotic maze where solid rock gives way to treacherous pockets of mud, collapsed ceilings, and areas heavily flooded by rising salt water. To pierce through this ancient fortress, Dr. Martinez's team had to completely abandon traditional shovels and instead deploy a sophisticated arsenal of 21st century exploration technology. The terrestrial phase of this high-tech assault relied heavily on ground-penetrating radar, GPR. Before a single stone was moved, technicians walked the sun-baked surface of the temple courtyard, dragging advanced radar arrays that fired high-frequency radio pulses deep into the limestone bedrock. When these signals hit subsurface anomalies, such as hollow spaces, hidden staircases, or artificial stone walls, they bounced back, creating a digital, three-dimensional ghost map of what lay buried up to 50 feet below. This non-invasive scanning allowed the team to pinpoint the exact entry shafts of the 4,300-foot tunnel system, sparing them from years of aimless, destructive digging. Once inside the geometric miracle tunnel, the team utilized advanced LiDAR scanning, using rapid laser pulses to map the dizzying contours of the hand-carved passage with millimeter-level precision, revealing structural alignments that human eyes could never detect in the pitch black. However, the battlefield shifted dramatically when the tunnel cut past the temple walls and dipped straight into the Mediterranean Sea. To conquer this murky, underwater frontier, the expedition required an elite level of maritime expertise. This prompted a historic collaboration with Dr. Robert Ballard, the world-renowned marine explorer whose pioneering utilization of deep-sea technology famously located the wrecks of the RMS Titanic and the German battleship Bismarck. Ballard brought a suite of state-of-the-art oceanographic equipment to the coast of Taposiris Magna, transforming the hunt into a highly advanced marine operation. The combined teams deployed high-resolution side-scan sonar devices towed behind research vessels, emitting fan-shaped acoustic pulses to paint highly detailed photographic images of the seabed topology. In areas where centuries of marine sediment and thick silt threatened to blind their instruments, they utilized sub-bottom profilers, sonar systems that blast low-frequency acoustic energy directly through the seafloor mud to image the solid geological strata underneath. The results were revolutionary. The technology successfully peeled back the ocean floor, revealing a completely lost, sunken landscape. It exposed systematic rows of massive 20-foot-tall stone columns, intricately cemented blocks, and a fascinating underwater archaeological zone designated as Salam 5. Here, remote-operated vehicles, ROVs, and specialized diving teams mapped distinct patterns of rectangular stone structures, basalt pedestals that perfectly matched the architecture of the dry land temple, and a trio of monumental pillars nicknamed the Three Sisters. Furthermore, the team unearthed a stunning two-piece amulet bearing the phrase, "Ra's justice has shone," alongside a beautifully preserved bronze ring dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of love and beauty. By feeding all of this sonar data and physical coordinates into computer modeling software, scientists were able to digitally simulate the ancient coastline exactly as it existed during Cleopatra's reign in 30 BCE. This proved that the flooded tunnel and the newly discovered royal port were once part of a seamless, highly secure complex. The technology has laid bare the map, leaving us at the precipice of the greatest archaeological unveiling of our time. What happens when the chamber opens? The high-stakes hunt spanning the desert floor and the ocean depths has brought us to the edge of history. Finding the intact, unlooted tomb of Cleopatra and Mark Antony would be the absolute holy grail of modern archaeology, a cinematic milestone that would dwarf the 1922 discovery of King Tutankhamun. If Dr. Kathleen Martinez's 20-year persistence culminates in breaching a sealed subterranean chamber at Taposiris Magna, the ripple effects will instantly reshape our understanding of the ancient world. For 2 millennia, the narrative of Egypt's final pharaoh has been heavily distorted by a lens of bitter Roman propaganda. Writers controlled by the victorious Emperor Augustus deliberately weaponized her memory, writing her into history not as a sovereign ruler, but as a manipulative foreign seductress who brought down great Roman generals through lust and trickery. An undisturbed tomb would completely strip away those layers of ancient political spin. The preservation of her burial goods, royal papyrus scrolls, and the physical mummies themselves would offer an unfiltered look at her true genius. We would finally see Cleopatra as she saw herself, a brilliant mathematician, a masterful political strategist who spoke 9 languages, and a fiercely independent monarch who fought to her very last breath to protect her empire from total foreign subjugation. The implications for our global cultural heritage are staggering. The technology has laid bare the map, leaving us at the ultimate precipice. Every newly mapped column in the flooded harbor and every radar anomaly detected deep beneath the temple bedrock suggests that the final, missing chapter of the Ptolemaic dynasty is waiting just behind a wall of solid sandstone. Whether her final resting place is ultimately revealed beneath the shifting desert sands or recovered from the crashing waves of the Mediterranean Sea, Cleopatra continues to do exactly what she did 2,000 years ago: capture the imagination, defy her enemies, and command the attention of the entire world. The ultimate fate of Egypt's final pharaoh is closer to being solved than ever before, proving that history always keeps its secrets until we look in the dark. If you want to stay on the cutting edge of history's greatest mysteries, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.